Right now, as you're watching this, air raid sirens are sounding in three different countries. Not one, three. Tehran, Kuwait, Bahrain, and somewhere under a mountain 2 kilometers from a bombed-out nuclear complex. Engineers are pouring reinforced concrete over a tunnel entrance, racing against a clock only they can see. Because the President of the United States just told them, on the record, that he's coming for that mountain pretty soon. This is night 11. 11 consecutive nights of American airstrikes on Iranian soil. And if you think you understand where this war is heading because you've been watching the strike counter go up 9, 10, 11, you're missing the actual pivot point. The story isn't the 11th night. It's the 11th night plus a name most people have never heard before this week, Pickaxe Mountain. Here's the real story. This war just quietly crossed from degrading Iran's military capability into threatening to end Iran's nuclear program for good. And almost nobody outside a small circle of nuclear analysts noticed the moment it happened. Let's start with tonight, because the ground truth matters before the bigger picture does. CENTCOM confirmed that U.S. forces began striking military targets in Iran for the 11th consecutive night, saying the strikes are aimed at continuing to degrade Iran's ability to threaten commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Within the hour, the reports started rolling in. Explosions near Sidik in Hormozgan province. Air defense activity across northeastern, western, and eastern Tehran. A reported strike near Tabriz, with Iranian officials saying the city center itself wasn't hit, but declining to say more. Explosions near Bushehr, home to Iran's nuclear power plant, with initial assessments pointing to 2 separate strikes. Locations nearby. That's a normal night now. 11 nights in. And normal means simultaneous strikes across 5 or 6 Iranian provinces, while air defenses light up over the capital. But here's where it stops being routine. Iran's military said it launched a wave of drone strikes on U.S. Army ammunition storage and logistics sites at a base in Kuwait. And, separately, the Revolutionary Guard claimed it hit a tactical radar complex near Kuwait's Ali al-Salam Air Base and a radar site on Bubiyan Island, an attack that came on the heels of Iranian strikes against Erbil and Bahrain in the same 48 hours. This is not one front anymore. Iran is now hitting American and Allied positions across 4 separate countries in a single stretch of days, while absorbing strikes across half a dozen of its own provinces every single night. And the cost is no longer abstract. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth told the Senate Appropriations Committee this week that the total cost of the war has reached $37.5 billion, about $9 billion higher than the Pentagon's previous public estimate, covering the fighting since February 28th plus anticipated costs through early September. Whatever this war is, Washington is now planning, in writing, for it to still be running 2 months from now. That's the surface story. A grinding, multi-front war of attrition that's expanding rather than winding down. Now, here's the part that actually explains where this is going. On July 13th, in a radio interview, President Trump said something that should have been the biggest headline of the week. We're going to take out Pickaxe Mountain. Tell the Iranians to be ready. This week, he sharpened it. Speaking from the White House, he told reporters the U.S. military would be hitting that area very probably pretty soon. And notably added that if he thought Iran could actually stop it, he wouldn't be saying so publicly at all. So what is Pickaxe Mountain? And why does one facility matter more than 11 nights of strikes on everything else combined? It sits just south of Iran's Natanz enrichment complex. The same Natanz that was bombed in last year's 12-day war, and again after February 28th. Known in Iran as Kue Kolang Gazla, construction began back in 2020. Long before this war, or the last one, was even on the horizon. It's built as deep as 100 meters underground, engineered, according to defense analysts, specifically to survive America's largest bunker-busting munitions. Here's the detail that should stop you cold. Unlike Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan, the 3 nuclear sites the U.S. and Israel already struck last summer, Pickaxe Mountain has never been hit. Not once in either war. It's the one card Iran never lost. And there's a specific reason US and Israeli officials believe that card matters enormously right now. Israeli intelligence believes Iran moved part of its enriched uranium stockpile, along with advanced enrichment centrifuges, into Pickaxe Mountain in the aftermath of last year's strikes, specifically to keep them alive. By the UN's own accounting, Iran had roughly 441 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% as of last June, material that, pushed further, is enough for multiple weapons. The IAEA's Director General has said he believes roughly 200 kilograms of that highly enriched stockpile sits in deep tunnels near Isfahan, with additional quantities tied to the new fortified site at Pickaxe. In other words, everything the US and Israel thought they destroyed last summer may not actually be destroyed. It may simply have moved underground into the one place built specifically to survive the kind of bombs America already used. That's the hidden actor in this entire war, not a general, not a proxy militia, a mountain. And the evidence that Iran knows exactly what's at stake keeps accumulating. Fresh satellite analysis shows continued active construction at the site, reinforced tunnel entrances, new concrete headworks, designed specifically to add extra layers of rock and material over the portals, and stockpiles of construction materials visible near the entrances. Analysts reading those images describe the work in blunt terms. These efforts exist to strengthen the tunnel openings and provide additional protection against exactly the kind of airstrike Trump is now threatening. This isn't a facility sitting idle, waiting to be found. It's a facility being actively hardened in real time against the specific weapon aimed at it. Now, to be fair to the skeptics, and there are serious ones inside the US and Israeli defense establishments, not just outside critics, the case for restraint here isn't nothing. Senior defense officials in both countries have told reporters in classified briefings that there's no current operational threat from the site, that it isn't yet functional, and that the strongest argument for hitting it is preemptive, taking out a future capability rather than an active one. Trump himself has said both things in the same breath, that the US will strike it, and separately, that we see no activity there worth calling a threat. That contradiction is real, and it's worth sitting with. You don't usually threaten to bomb a mountain very heavily, while also saying nothing dangerous is happening inside it. Here's the gap that argument can't close, though. If Pickaxe Mountain isn't operational and isn't a threat, why is Iran investing scarce wartime resources under nightly bombardment, with an economy already in freefall, into pouring concrete over its tunnel entrances? You don't reinforce a facility you don't believe is both valuable and targeted. Iran's own behavior is the strongest evidence against its government's public denials, and Iran isn't hiding its intentions about what happens if that strike comes. Iran's Qatam al-Anbiya military command told state broadcaster IRGC that an attack on Pickaxe Mountain would be an explosion of war in the region and threaten strikes on all the interests of America, the allies, and supporters. A hardline Iranian newspaper went further still, warning that if the site is hit, Iran would launch devastating strikes on US nuclear sites from undisclosed locations, invoking what it called the principle of an eye for an eye. Analysts note the facility was specifically engineered to survive America's massive ordnance penetrator bunker busters, meaning even a strike may not settle the question the way a headline would suggest. So here's what's actually escalating. Underneath the nightly explosion counter you keep seeing in headlines, this war is no longer just about who controls the Strait of Hormuz. It's quietly becoming about whether Iran still has a live nuclear program at all, hidden under a mountain that's never been touched, being reinforced in real time, while the President of the United States tells reporters on camera that the countdown has already started.